the session from Global to Local SDG16 Access to Justice and Women's Strategies for Empowerment by Ms. Laura Giordoro Koch. Ms. Laura is the founder of Women for Solutions, which is an NGO that is co-creating the caring economy. She's a change maker, impact investor, system social entrepreneur, philanthropist, and lawyer for over 3 decades, focusing on microfinance, innovation technologies, education, gender, and climate issues. She believes in the power of business and the markets to solve the greatest problems facing humanity, and she sees this in her businesses and the initiatives where she has collaborated with. Thank you so much, Ms. Laura, for joining us today. Over to you for your session from Global to Local SDG 16 Access to Justice and Women's Strategies for Empowerment.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here because actually this subject I am so passionate about because it is the solution for the world. Actually, peace starts at home. Peace starts with oneself. But have you learned at school, at home, how to deal with peace? Do you have tools to deal with peace? I mean, this is something we need to really address in education. And Women for Solutions, for the last few years, we have created this possibility of a certification for learning how to deal with a very simple method called non-conflict in peacemaking. Because I'm going to ask you, and if you can write in your chat, when you hear the word conflict, what do you feel? And I've been teaching this for more than 7 years, and everybody writes anger, stress, a possibility of violence, and I mean, there's all negative issues that come about. The most important is that you hear what I have to say. Because most people, when they see this, they feel anger. Well, conflict is actually not good, is not something that is a positive or negative. Actually, many people, when they feel conflict, they immediately think of negative things. And so what happens when you have conflict? Your cortisol level of hormones will come up, your negativity rises, your mirror neurons affect you because you immediately reflect what's happened to the other, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But people don't see that when you have conflict, it's just an opportunity to grow. Again, when there's conflict, and there are millions of conflicts out there, and basically when you see conflict, you have to think, great, I don't provoke conflict, but you say, I have finally a way in which I can improve. You see, conflict, the way it is described in most dictionaries, don't even agree how to define it, but generally is related to war, aggression, violence. But conflict is very simple. It is about this definition right here. Okay, well, then I'll just keep going with the presentation. I know words mean a lot for many. And so basically what happens is when you have a conflict, the definition that we believe is 2 or more different perspectives that come into contact with each other. That's it. So basically, because there is a universal necessity of humans that is in every religion, in every country, in every human being, that we need to, and we want to be heard, we want to be feel secure, we want to feel respected, we want to be recognized, we want to be valued. Basically, we want trust. And when there's trust between people, magic happens. The most interesting thing about when you learn to use conflict as an opportunity to transform it into a positive, you have incredible positive results. You have personal results that are you gain better self-understanding, you grow as a person, your opportunities to improve your relationships, and your trust and care and long-term relationships really flourish. See, visuals and numbers they are learn much faster than if I talk and talk and talk. And so the cost of conflict in companies is huge. And it really impacts on productivity and work efficiency and team morale. It happens that 1 in 4 employees report to leave a company many times because of conflict that they have not been able to address. So if we can start not only personally but also in businesses to learn as a company to say, okay, we have a business tool that will help us transform a conflict into what we call a non-flict, because the results are astounding. And we have seen it in many companies that you have worked with, because it brings new ideas, innovation that is key for the future, transparent trust and care. Without trust in a company, nothing really works. And the authors of this methodology are Amir Kafir and Stephen Heck. Amir Kafir is the thinker behind this, of this 3-step process that is so simple that it fits in your hand. It's such a simple, and basically why these 2 gentlemen have created this book is they said in 50 pages you can actually know how to deal with conflict. Why? Because they got the best of everything that is out there: imago therapy, positive psychology, change management, coach practices, neuroscience, NLP. You see, what happens is that there's nothing new under the sun in this methodology, but what it is very simple. And they created an NGO called Million Peacemakers, because what it does is that if those that desire peace will actually create the peace that we're looking for in SDG16. And why is so simple? Because it has three simple steps that when you practice it, and ladies and gentlemen, I have taught this to thousands of people in Spanish, in English, in Italian, because I'm Italian and I'm Argentinian, and it works. It is amazing. And we are also would like to invite anybody in this group if they want to become a coach, because we need many, many coaches to teach this methodology in less than an hour. I know I only have half an hour to tell you about it, but I will do my best. So just to give you an idea, how do you deal with conflict? And basically, there are 4 ways that most people deal. Fleeing, it's called the elephant in the room, that nobody wants to talk about it, and too many people deal with it, and it's very negative because it accumulates and infests. Also, force, winners and losers. That's how businesses are dealt now. Let's change that and move forward toward a better way of dealing with conflict instead of forcing the weaker into and also, I'm a master folder, because that's what happened in Argentina, where I was brought up. Most women would rather fold instead of arguing with their husbands, and to create peace and harmony in the family. And it doesn't work. As well, many people know that the 50-50, like since we have in the Bible the story of Solomon, that there was 1 baby and 2 mothers, and Solomon said, okay, let's cut the baby in half. And obviously after that, the mother said, no, give the baby to the other woman. So basically, many ways of dealing with conflict, if you don't have a tool that is very specific, you don't know how to deal with it. And what happens is that we have absorbed the way our parents or tutors dealt with conflict, and then it impacts our lives. And it happens that there's even studies that show that in your DNA, you absorb and you carry the way conflicts have been dealt in your family, your grandmother, your grandmother, and then you pass it to your kids. You learn from one or from the other parent. Let me give you now a few pre-concepts regarding this methodology. If there's one thing I would like you to remember from this talk is the importance of learning active listening. When you learn active listening, and that you practice it every day, because if you don't practice it every day, things don't change, you will find your way into an amazing opportunity of growth whenever there is a conflict. And another preconcept of a non-conflict is mirroring and framing and visualization. And I'm going to go through these four concepts very fast, and so that you can see. So active listening, one of the key things is looking with intent at the other person's eyes. The eyes are the mirror of our soul. And so when you're listening to somebody who's telling you about a conflict, you need to listen to them by looking into the eyes and assenting, and being very mindful that you can hear or you can choose to hear the meaning. Whatever the other person is saying, it's vibrations, and you can just totally ignore them, because we have actually 60 to 100,000 thoughts a day. So you need to calm down. In Women for Solutions, we do a lot of breath work, because only that will you lower your vibrations and you can start listening to the other person. It doesn't mean that you're going to agree with everything they are saying, but as I told you, the universal law of everybody is that we like to be heard and feel secure and respected. And many times when people hear each other, the conflict disappears. As I told you, we have 60,000 thoughts a day. And what happens when people are listening to each other and one is continuously interrupting? Basically, they're not listening, because their mind is focused on their thoughts and not into what the other person is saying. The same, it's very important to listen with your heart. You have to step into the other person's shoes and but first take yours off, so that you can have empathy on what the other person is saying and deeply understand what they're saying. And so that's active listening. Second concept that's very important, mirroring. Have you ever realized when somebody is happy in front of you, actually there's like a domino effect that affects you? The same happens with anger. If somebody is in front of you angry, guess what happens? Your mirror neurons start to act and replicate what the other person is doing. The mirror neurons are our intelligent cells. And only 20, 30 years ago, it was discovered by an Italian scientist. Because when somebody's in front of another, that's the only way that you can actually connect with the other person and learn with the other person, and now through Zoom as well. But this is the magic of mirroring. Is how do we use it in non-conflict? In this methodology is when you are listening to the other person, then you repeat the essence of what the other person is saying. Another concept you have to consider when you are faced with family or with any type of conflict is framing. You have to understand the background, the personality, their emotional, the physical state. And visualization is so important. And this is a little bit far-fetched for many of you, but it works. I'll give you the best example. There's so many research about visualization. Let's give the example of basketball players. There's a group of A, B, and C. Group A actually throws the basketball to the basket and practices half an hour a day. Group B practices only in their mind. And every day for half an hour, they practice throwing the ball, but in their mind. Group C does nothing. Guess what happens? Because of the practice, the group A improved 24%. Group B, that did the visualization, improved 22%. And group C, nothing. So the magic of visualization works. And you will see that in this methodology, we use visualization as a key element to understand each other. So now you have understood active listening, mirroring, framing, visualization. And remember, active listening, I would like everybody to apply this every day whenever you are listening to somebody. It is magic. Okay, let's go for the non-flict. I know I have maybe 10 more minutes. I'll go very fast, but you can go to the website, you can go to Women for Solutions and learn. And we at Women for Solutions, we have maybe 5 or 6 1-hour videos on this methodology where you can really learn it in depth. And also we on the 20th on the 14th of November, we're going to have a whoever wants to become a non-flict coach, especially in India. I would love to have many women and men coaches so that you can coach in your family, in your schools, in your communities. Step 1, understanding yourself and your partners. Pretty simple, isn't it? Basically, our friend Einstein is the best describer of what is step 1. If you have an hour to solve a problem, you will spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 thinking about a solution. So that's step 1. 55 minutes. You spend a lot more time on step 1 than any of the other ones, because actually it happens that when you spend enough time on step 1, you most probably have solved your problems. One of the key things about step 1 is, as I said, active listening. You need to practice it every day. Self-awareness. Many of you know what do you do in your daily life when you wake up about self-awareness? Do you look in your mirror when you wake up and say, do I have a conflict? I better deal with it. For example, we have a very important personality in the American history, that he every day when he went to sleep, he would think, okay, who did I mistreat today? And the next day he would go and apologize or try to solve the problem. Because people, sometimes you don't act properly, and that helps you in your self-awareness. Or other people in the self-awareness, what they do is they have a diary every day. Every night they write how are they grateful, or every morning they write how are they grateful. So this will rely, and also it's very important to understand what triggers your emotions. Your emotions are key to be understood, because otherwise you won't be able to do step 1 properly. Okay, let's go for the basics. I don't know if you see me, and I'll show you then, but this step is very simple. Basically, when you have a conflict with somebody, let's say I have a conflict with my husband of 30 years, and I said, look, husband, let's do non-flict. Okay. He doesn't like it that much, because then, things become clearer and not only his way. So the first is, okay, what makes this conflict make me feel? It's very important to say this conflict makes me feel such and so. I feel upset. Because your feelings need to be validated. What is important and what are the facts? Then husband will mirror the essence of what I have said. And he will say, I heard you said you feel this is what is important to you, and these were the facts. And then he will say, have I understood you well? Is there anything else? So we try to keep one conflict at a time, because otherwise we'll have an eternal conflict, especially if you're married for 30 years, isn't it? And then in step 1 still, then husband will say, okay, you had that conflict about that issue. Well, let me tell you how I felt about that conflict. Let me tell you what was important about that conflict. Let me tell you the facts. And then I will say, husband, these were what you felt, what was important, these were the facts. And I will say the essence of what he was saying. This doesn't mean that I agreed with what he said. I was only mirroring. And then I will say, have I understood you well? And is there anything else? These questions at the end are very important to validate, because when you have the long session, validation is fundamental for the other person to feel heard. Okay, step 2. Now, step 2 is understand your shared reality. And it's very simple. At that time, when you had gone through step one, when you both had discussed what is the issue, you realized that maybe the reason of your conflict is not the real conflict, because you're having conflict all the time and you don't understand, but maybe there's underlying conflict. For example, in the case of my husband and me, I thought it was very important because of my family upbringing that you don't spend too much money. And in my husband's side, he said, money was free flowing. And so that was a big conflict in our marriage. And then the second question you ask, if you understand what is the underlying, and what is working well for us. And this is a magic question, because the other person smiles and says, well, we have 2 kids, we've raised them well, and then we have this in common, we like to do this in common. And then the third question is, what is the worst possible scenario? And there you use your visualization. You close your eyes and say, well, if we continue fighting about these stupid little things, we might be divorced in a few years. Our children will see us discussing so badly that they might be horrible people to be around. Or if you have a business and you're always fighting with your partner in your business, you might be bankrupt by the time in a few years. So visualizing that says, okay, let's stop. This is called change management, and move on to a better way of dealing with conflict, because we are all ready to understand that if our emotions get in the way, we do not solve it. So the third step, as I mentioned, is very fast. By then, you and your partner will discuss what is the best possible scenario, what are the obstacles to achieve that, what are the things that cannot be changed and what can be changed. So you say, okay, the controllable obstacles are such, and so then we will do this, when we will do it, and what gets done. We write it down. It's best to write it. And these are the three steps that all fit in a business card. So Million Peacemakers the book has been translated in Matradi in India, because it has been used for more than 2,000 women in India. And we have also been invited by the Pope, because he says, oh my God, we need to use this methodology, but COVID took care of us. And basically, thank you for listening. And all of you now are peacemakers, because now you heard the basics of this concept. And when I was given the invitation to start this presentation, I was said, well, I could talk about the theory of all these 7 years of teaching conflict resolution to people and women, because women have the essence of creating harmony in most families. But if they do it with the right tools, and basically, if it's done with the right tools, we inspire our children, our family members to deal with it in the proper way. So on that note, thank you very much. I hope I didn't pass my time. I think this it's been a lovely way of explaining our methodology. And I truly believe that if everybody, I say not a million, 1 billion human beings learn this very simple 3-step process, we will have peace in this world.
Thank you so much, Miss Laura, for that amazing session. I said many of us follow what Einstein said, spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about the solutions. I think the non-conflict way is amazing, and the world needs such a solution, especially now when we spend a lot of time at home with our partners. And as you said, the eternal fight happens in every house. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing the solutions for the conflicts we all have in our daily lives. Thank you.